Hello everyone, and welcome to Black Cloud Travels. My name is Doris. Today we will be traveling from Inuvik in the Northwest Territories to Tuktoyaktuk, right on the Arctic Ocean. In this episode, we're going to switch things up a little bit. The driving footage from Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk is nowhere to be found, so we will continue with what we do have. I'd like to begin by doing a little recap of our day yesterday when we drove from Eagle Plains, Yukon, to Inuvik. And also, remember in the previous episode I told you the story how we met a nice young man and he had prayer flags all around the roof of his car. Well, I did get a picture of it, and here it is. There are two ferries that will get you to Tuktoyaktuk, and they are both free. So here we are on our third day, driving into our camping ground. Now, as I mentioned in the other episode, this camping ground was pointed out to us by the YouTube channel Motorhome Experiment, who stayed here the year before. And we decided to check it out, and it looked okay. Now, also in an episode from the Motorhome Experiment, after coming back from the Dempster Highway, after having finished it, they went and spent some time at a car wash where it took quite a bit of money for them to wash off their big A-class travel motorhome. And not only that, when they went into their storage spots on the outside of their trailer, they found it all caked with red dust inside. It had gotten inside while they were traveling, and it was very thick. And I remember her telling us that it took her hours to clean out all the travel compartments on the outside, even after enlisting the help of some local children to take things out, wash them off, clean the interior, and restore everything. So, in order to avoid that, Frank had the idea of buying some tape and fixing it to the outside of the doors to create a seal so that the dust will not be able to get inside. Well, as you can see, that did not work so well. The tape did not stick well at all, and in the end we did get a lot of grime on the inside of our storage compartments. Here we have the pizza that we ordered that night. It was a lot like the pizza we had in Fort Nelson, slices of bologna, enough said. At long last, Tuktoyaktuk. And those are very happy moments. There in the distance you can see the pingos. A lot of small little rivers and lakes. It was here that Frank pointed out to me what he thought was the Norad listening station. Now, not only was the Norad listening station used during the Cold War to observe any activity in Russia, but this station is also the eyes and ears of Santa Claus during Christmas Eve. Finally, the Arctic Ocean. That's me there having a moment. This is the Beaufort Sea, and it is a marginal sea of the Arctic Ocean. So yes, it is a part of the Arctic Ocean. Now, I have felt the power of the earth twice in my life. Once was when I experienced an earthquake here at my home several years ago. I looked outside and I could see the ground, the earth, the houses shake. The second time I could feel the power of the earth was here. Here we were surrounded by water, and I could feel it bearing down on us. It was very cold there. There was kind of a hard, small hail, which stung as it hit you. It was very windy, and it was an inhospitable atmosphere. So we did the best we could to take a quick look around, and then we went inside the trailer, had some lunch, sandwiches, potato salad, and then we decided best to camp outside of town. There was a lot of misinformation at the time as to whether this was a free camp spot, whether this was a paid camp spot, how much money it cost to camp there, and it all had to do with the ongoing legal troubles of the town of Tuktoyaktuk. Now, when we were first introduced to Tuktoyaktuk by the YouTube channel Motorhome Experiment, this was all considered free campground, and it was packed with campers. It was packed with tents. It was packed with trucks. And Tuktoyaktuk, I imagine, was pretty overwhelmed. And now they realized they had a problem. A lot of people, they were getting a lot more tourism. As we drive back through the town, you'll notice that it is a very poor village. It shows in the road, it shows in the housing, it shows in the maintenance of the town. Obviously, there was very little money to spare here. So then came the question, well, what do we have to do to get us up to speed? And of course the answer is charge for camping. And unfortunately, we had arrived at a time where this was all up in the air and unorganized. There was no ranger hut or tent there to give instruction, and we had read accounts of how people were approached and asked to hand over $60 some odd to spend the night there, or people were approached while they were having a picnic under the covered picnic area and told that they could not eat there without paying a fee of some kind. There to the right, you will see the Tuktoyaktuk Cemetery, and recently CBC ran an article which you should still be able to find on the internet regarding the state of the cemeteries in and around Tuktoyaktuk. They are suffering a crisis in coastal erosion, and the actual cemetery is about 23 meters from the coast of the Arctic Ocean. Residents of the area are now preferring to be buried in Yellowknife. And so eventually, in the end, Frank and I just decided to err on the side of caution and stay at the free campsites on the outside of town. And so this is life in Tuktoyaktuk. It was really quite moving driving through the streets. I am always looking for a child's bicycle on the front lawn, children playing, people talking, but there was none of that here. It looks quite desolate. It would have been nice to see this on a bright sunny day. I'm sure the ambiance would be totally different. Now you'll see the houses here on stilts. They are above ground, and this is because of the permafrost. Once again, reading from Wikipedia, radar domes were installed beginning in the 1950s as part of the Distant Early Warning Line to monitor air traffic and detect possible Soviet intrusions during the Cold War. Now, aside from the mud and gravel you hear hitting us from the road, you hear all kinds of rattles and squeaks and peeps, and that is the stuff we have in storage probably above us. There is our portable table, there's our camp chairs, heaters, there's a kayak up there, there's another clamshell tent up there. And behind us, of course, we have the oven, things that we've put in the sink. Although, like, I've wrapped them up. It's like a plastic container with maybe some wrapped up knives and forks in there. And, of course, there's always the water bottles that love to squeak and peep in their plastic bag, which drives me crazy. It would have been very nice to see Tuktoyaktuk in the sunshine, but you have to say we could not have picked a more atmospheric day to visit. So out of curiosity, I asked Frank while we were watching this why there would be so many oil tankers left over. And he said it was due basically to the past mining industry, which I doubt still exists. The temperature today in Tuktoyaktuk is the high of 6 with a low of 4 Celsius, which in Fahrenheit makes it basically the low 40s. Yes, it was a cold day, and it sure looks like it too, doesn't it? As you can see, raining on and off, well, more like a hail. But it is not pleasant to be outside on a day like today. And I'm happy to be in the camper. It looks like we will be running the generator all night when we finally get to our camping spot to keep us nice and warm. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the driving footage from Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk was not to be found. I was looking forward to showing you the 5 kilometers of road leading out of Inuvik because of the washboarding. And I'm not talking regular washboarding, I am talking throw you to the ground washboarding. You moved a few inches, slam down to the ground. Move a few more inches, slam down to the ground. It was intense. So that being said, that is exactly what we have to look forward to tomorrow as we head back into Inuvik. I learned something new watching this with my husband. Now, like I said earlier, when I'm driving through a new little town or city, I look for the toys in the yard, I look for the kids, I look for the people. He looks for the cars, the tankers, the water towers. And he said to me, now that we're passing by all these tankers, he said, you know, you can always tell an active tanker if you see a truck in front of it. You know, it still mystifies me how we did not see the wildlife that we were expecting. They're just not there. Either that or they're very entrenched into hiding places, which is okay. But, I mean, look at the vista. You can see for miles on either side. There's nothing blocking your vision. I don't see buffalo. I don't see moose. I don't see elk. I don't see bear. And yes, it's a little disappointing, but I can deal with it. Also, once again, I'll mention that there were a lot of abandoned dog sleds and snowmobiles, which is another mystery. So, we are going to start coming upon some pretty sweet pingos. And Wikipedia describes pingos as a mound of earth covered mainly in ice and found in the Arctic and subarctic that can reach up to 70 meters. So we will be camping at the Pingo National Landmark, which is a natural area. It is in the coastal region of the Arctic Ocean, which contains approximately 1,350 Arctic ice dome hills. So just to be clear, the Dempster Highway itself ends in Inuvik, and the road that continues on to Tuktoyaktuk is known as Highway 10. It was finished in 2017 and cost $300 million to build. There is an article put out by the CBC titled, "As Inuvik Tuktoyaktuk Highway Opens, Will the $300 Million Price Tag Be Worth It?" And it goes on to say that the $300 million project to build an all-weather road to the isolated community of Tuktoyaktuk would make exploration for oil and gas in the region to be more efficient and therefore more profitable. So we will shortly be approaching our camp spot for the night, which is the Pingo National Landmark. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed showing this to you. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you will join us again. On behalf of Frank and myself, bye-bye for now.